Courtney and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already watched it, I suggest checking out my September TBR, which happens to be the Bookopoly-thon hosted by Becca's Bookopoly over on Twitter and YouTube. And this is where I played a bookish monopoly to determine what books I would read in September, so I left it all to chance. Also, feel free to follow me on my social media channels. I am over on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and I think that's it. Alright, today we are going over my August reads. So this was a hefty reading month for me. So many events that I participated in, different reading challenges I did, and yeah, very exciting. I just can't believe I read this many books. It's kind of unbelievable for me. Other people that might be completely normal, who knows? But I'm sitting here, it's September 1st of me filming this. The window is open, it's like 60 some odd degrees. I'm wearing sweatpants. I'm just loving life right now. I just feel so refreshed and ready for fall and autumn and wrapping up the last of summer with this reading list here. So let me give you some stats. So once again, I filled out my always fully booked planner, and this is my reading wrap-up page. So it has the books that I read, different genres, things that I'm loving, and like some stats and data points there. So here we go. I read 14 books. Mind-blowing, can't believe that. I will tell you what the best book was a little bit later. Number of pages read, 4,328. 8 print books, 0 ebooks. I don't know what to tell you. And then 6 audiobooks. The genres, I am so proud of myself for this. I've always considered myself like a broad reader and not really having, at least lately, a favorite genre, and I think you can tell this by the genres I read for this month. So they included thrillers, young adult, nonfiction, science fiction, historical fiction, and contemporary. I can't believe that. It's nuts. And then what am I currently loving? So this doesn't have to do with books necessarily, but I'm currently watching The Bold Type, which is like a modern day Sex and the City meets Younger in a little bit. Super fun. It used to be on Freeform / ABC Family. And then also watching Scrubs. Had never seen that series before. I'm loving deadlifts, which is a form of an exercise having to do with weights. And I just like it because I just feel strong and just upping my weightlifting experience or successes, so that I've been doing really well with. And then early morning workouts. So not the last few days. Last few days I've been having a work conference or virtual work conference that goes until late at night, so I haven't had, I personally just didn't want to get up, and I've been so tired to get up in the morning to work out. But leading up to that, I was going to the gym around like 6:30ish and just feeling good and like energized for the day, so loving that. So yes, that has been the updates or the wrap up in terms of quantity and everything. So let's get to the books. The first book I have is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazuu Kawagucchi, and this I read on my reading retreat. So I will have my reading retreat vlog up probably in the next week or so. This is where I went down to Asheville, North Carolina with the sole intention of, or purpose of, reading in like an air bed and breakfast and just enjoying myself there and exploring the area. So I'll have more for you in that vlog. But this was the first read that I picked, and this was genius. I'd seen this a couple of times on Bookstagram and BookTube, but this is a fiction, kind of a little bit sci-fi fantasy-ish novel set in Japan at this coffee shop. I think majority of the story takes place in this coffee shop, and it details different characters. It's set for like 4 different sections, I think, 4 or 5 different sections of the book, handles a different character experiencing regret or guilt or wonder as it comes to choices that they made, circumstances that happened, and then by sitting in this particular chair in this coffee shop, they are able to live out their, not hopes or dreams, but like figure out what went wrong or get some closure with whatever it was that they wanted to. And there's several rules, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but based off the cover, it says before the coffee gets cold, so you'll have to finish up this conversation or this experience before the coffee gets cold, or there will be consequences. 5 out of 5 read. Absolutely amazing. I love this. It's also a translated fiction, so if that is something that you're interested in or want to use that for a different reading challenge that you're in, feel free to do that. This was a competitor for my top book of the month. it was close. It did not win, but it was very, very close. And they do have, I don't know if it counts as a sequel, but they have a companion or continuing story that has 4 other characters going through the same thing. And like the life lessons that you get from each of these characters, at least from this book, are just amazing and just made me think so much about my life, about the past, present, future, and what I think about them and what I can do to not necessarily make myself better or feel better about it, but just, like I said, have that closure. Then we have 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. So this was another book I read on the reading retreat, which was like, why the heck am I going on this solo reading retreat reading a thriller murder mystery? Thankfully, I didn't lose sleep or like get spooked by potential people trying to kill me. But this is a book about books, and it's super interesting since it's told in first person from mystery bookseller named Malcolm, who's one day is approached by an FBI agent about the string of murders that seem to be connected based off a blog post he wrote for the store called 8 Perfect Murders. And that blog post had a list of 8 books from Agatha Christie to some other famous murder mystery authors and writers that had like the perfect crime or the perfect murders committed in those books. So now somebody, some fanatic or some person in his life is going around killing based off of these stories. So it's super interesting way to pay homage to a book or an author, but the author gets caught up in like, who is it? Like, is it somebody I know? Who can I trust? And it's just a lot of twists and turns in there. It didn't blow my mind. I think I gave it a 4 or 4.5 out of 5. So it was definitely interesting and intriguing, especially with the books about books aspect with it. But I didn't see it coming either, even though I know I should have based off certain things that happened in the book. I'm like, obviously, ugh. But that's definitely a good thing. But like I said, didn't exactly blow my mind. Then we have The Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis. So this was read during my Dewey's 24-hour reverse readathon. That was an 8 p.m. Friday night into 8 p.m. Saturday night. So this was the first read. I had people pick on Instagram which book I should read first, and this was the winner. So this one took a little bit longer to read, even though it is a shorter book. It is like a novel format compared to the other 2 books I read during the readathon. But I had seen the Netflix series in November, December, and absolutely loved the miniseries. I like want to watch it again, even after reading this book. It's very similar, so if you've watched the TV series, there's not a whole lot more you'll get out of this. Like, there might be a little bit more detail here, but I had a hard time like imagining the characters that Walter Tevis had written, because I'd seen the characters as actors and actresses in the TV series. So that, if that bothers you, then maybe not do that order. Read the book first, then watch the series. But I was still happy with the story and like engaged again. Didn't feel like I didn't know enough about chess in order to enjoy it. Like, they explain it really well, and I read it quickly just to like see like, oh, what moves are they going to do next? And it was just a really fun, quick, anticipatory read, like as you're going through the different pages and chapters, and just made me fall in love with chess and the series and, I don't know, Beth all over again. Then we have I Hope This Finds You Well, poems by Kate Baer. So I love Kate Baer. She is a poet that got me interested into poetry to begin with, and I read What Kind of Woman last year. I think it came out around my birthday last year around November. I think this comes out in November 20. Yep, this comes out in November of this year. So I had an advanced copy from a Goodreads giveaway that I won, and I absolutely love this. So this, I gave a 5 out of 5. Also read during my Dewey's readathon. I think I read it in an hour, like super easy to read through, and it's super interesting. So what happens with this collection is Kate received different emails and like messages from the past like year or so, either criticizing her feminist viewpoints or like her like political views and everything like that, or congratulating her or whatever. So it's a mix of like criticisms and random emails and a praise. and she takes those messages and does what's called erasure poems. So she forms a poem based off the given text. So for example, fat girl smiling in a bathing suit. So this is the original text with some things redacted to complete with privacy, and then she creates a poem based off those words by erasing out original words from here. So she does that throughout the whole collection. It's brilliant. It made me feel empowered, strong, independent, and I don't know, like, I am a champion of hers and of feminism, and it's just amazing. I think Beth at Books Nest, I think, would really enjoy this. She is really diving into a lot of feminist literature and nonfiction reads lately, and I feel like she would be over the moon about this when this comes out, or if she's able to get a copy ahead of time. So absolutely amazing. 5 out of 5. Quick poetry collection. Then we have The Ballerinas by Rachel Kapelke-Dale, and this is an early copy as well. This got sent to me also from a giveaway. This comes out this December of 2021, and this, I was not familiar with Black Swan. The only ballet things I knew of were Center Stage, which this is like way more dramatic and like darker than that, if you're familiar with that movie. But this follows 3 different ballet or ballerinas in the, I think it's the French or the Paris Opera Ballet, or some kind of version of those letters or those words into an acronym. But that's one of the most prestigious ballet companies in the world. They get into the school or the academy as like 10 or 12-year-olds, and we follow their progression into adulthood. So it goes back and forth between them going through this academy and then present day, where things are a lot different from when they were in school. So yeah, it's super interesting to learn more about like the ballet world, like what people will do to get into the school, what they will do to get specific spots in the ballet and be, I don't know what the terminology is, but basically be the star of the ballet and not necessarily be in the background as like an extra in a sense, I guess. So it was very intriguing, devious, manipulative, just, I don't know, like, I don't know if this actually happens in the ballet world, but it's very, very competitive from what I can tell. This I gave, I think, a 4 and a 4.5 out of 5. So be on the lookout for this in December. Then we have Seek You, A Journey Through American Loneliness by Kristen Radtke, and this was a graphic novel. So I also read this during my Dewey's Reading Challenge. As you can see some of the graphics there, and I appreciated this. So I think the only graphic novels I've read that I remembered have been nonfiction graphic novels, which I think is a beautiful way to tell a story. I know, not that there's anything wrong with fiction either, but I think it's a good way to get history and lessons, I guess, out of it in this kind of way. That's not like a textbook, or I have a hard time with nonfiction to begin with. It has to read like a story or I won't enjoy it at all. And this I thought was genius. I ranked it a little bit lower. I think I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 because it did get a little too heavy in the scientific aspects of what not necessarily causes loneliness, but there's a bunch of like experiments done with animals and I think plants that just went into a lot of like information I personally did not need to know, but I liked the different narratives about why people enjoy laugh tracks with TV, watching TV, or what comfort folks get from social media when they're feeling alone. So it's a lot of good insights there. Like, I personally felt alone and lonely, so I felt seen and heard in this book. I just wish there was more storytelling than the scientific approach. But if you like psychology and sociology, this is a good read for you. Then we have The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I never get this right. But he wrote The Silent Patient, which I loved the build-up in the story. I predicted the ending. This did not predict the ending, but I didn't think it was that great, or the story itself was just too like cliche, or like, oh, of course that happened, so I guess unbelievable, if that makes sense. I've seen people either really love this book or like despise it. I don't despise it, I just think like, it was okay. I probably won't be holding on to this. I probably will donate this to a little free library after I'm done doing this video. But this follows a woman who is a group therapist, and her niece is at school at Cambridge, and her niece calls one night and is freaking out because one of her friends or her roommates is found dead, and then the main character Mariana goes up there and somehow gets involved in like solving the mystery and is convinced that this professor of classics or I guess this is considered a dark academia novel, and she thinks he's responsible for it. And I don't know, it's just weird how she finds herself in the middle of like this investigation in this case as like a, not necessarily a nobody, but like what does she, I mean, besides knowing the niece, who is a friend of the victim, like how is she able to get this information about this case? So that I thought was a little far-fetched. Anyhow, it was okay. I think I gave it a 3 or 3.5 out of 5. I said the ending wasn't predictable, but it was kind of like, really? That's the twist? Nah. The last print book I have is Falling by T.J. Newman, and this I bought from Cincy Book Bus, I think at the end of July, I want to say, and this was like rated a really high read by a lot of independent booksellers. It was like the #1 pick for a while. And this follows a kidnapping of an airplane and a family that's related to this pilot, and it's not just about like terrorism, like it is about terrorism, but it's also about like opening one's eyes to what's going on in other countries that is not in the news. And this, I felt like this was timely. Like I read this before a lot of the Afghanistan news was coming in, and I've appreciated this book and then the conversations that are happening because of what's happening in Afghanistan and the Middle East about like how there's so much that we just don't know that's happening over there, or like other places in the world that we're so oblivious to or ignorant to. And it's not, I'm not saying it's like a fault, but it's just interesting that like the approach in this book was the terrorists that kidnapped the family and the airplane, or that were trying to enact terror on like a city and like the people on the plane and everything. They just wanted people to wake up. Like that was their big thing, like wake up, see that there's way more that's going on than what's being projected in the media and all of that. So that I thought was brilliant. And the pilot, he like makes a promise to himself that he's going to do more research and not just like say that he's going to do that and like put out all these messages of like, oh, I see you, I hear you, whatever country, but actually do the work. And I just really appreciate that, needed to hear it. And I've been very, not involved, but like I've been paying a lot more attention to at least like what's going on in Afghanistan, and just, I don't know, just been feeling emotional and just having my eyes opened, I guess. So not that, I mean, it's sad that that's the way that I needed to see it. I just know that I want to do more and learn more and read more. So yeah, that was a 5 out of 5 for sure. Now on to the audiobooks. The first I read was The Plot by Jean Hanff Korelitz. Apologies on the pronunciation. So right off the bat, I gave this a 3 out of 5, and I think that was generous. I know this has been rated very highly, and this is the story of a author who, he's a professor at like a PhD program for like Master of Fine Arts or writing program, and a student comes up to him very arrogant and it's like, I'm going to write the next best thing, it's going to be a movie, blah 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 blah. It turns out that student dies, and before he had died, he had told the professor the plot of the story that he was writing, and the professor takes it upon himself to write that story. And it comes with all the fame, the glory, the movie adaptations and movie rights and all of that. And then he starts getting all these messages about, you stole it, that's not your story, I know what you did, a lot of threats and everything. And so I knew pretty much right away what was going to happen, which I think is why I rated it so low. I think it was obvious right off the bat what was going to happen, or who did what, or who was sending the messages and everything. So that, I think, just tainted the whole thing for me. I think it was still interesting. I think I also was wondering, because I saw the words with Bradley Cooper and Zoe Saldana, and I thought it was very similar to that, even though different endings for sure. But I'm like, I feel like I've seen this, which is not a problem to see the same type of story again, but I think I saw it so recently that I'm like, okay, I can pretty much tell where this is going. So that's why I'm sorry. I don't like to give books such low ratings. 3 is not low, but I didn't get the big hype over it. Then I listened to Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguru. This was absolutely genius. I love the combination and like symbolism of like technology, science, and environment, and human nature, and the impact we have on the environment. Amazing, mind-blowing. Like, I love when I can figure out or like can pull out the bigger picture of a story like that. So basically, Clara is an artificial friend, or an AF, at the store that sells artificial friends, and one day a young girl comes in who's like very sick, very ill, and she wants Clara compared to the other artificial friends around. And Clara's like an older model, but like she's very knowledgeable, observant, all this kind of stuff. So I thought, one, wow, what an interesting concept that we need to buy a robot to be like a friend. And like you can tell there's another character, her best friend, or the young girl's best friend, doesn't have an artificial friend and is not seen as like a high society family in the neighborhood, and gets kind of teased by that by the young girl's friends and everything. And Clara's kind of like in tune with that when she goes home with the family. So, and then it just takes us on this whole journey of experiences that they have together. I don't know if I want to give away like why they got her, and like the projection of what the robots or artificial friends can do in the future, because that I thought was like, whoa, that, and I wondered if that was going to happen based off an interaction the artificial friend had with the mom. I'm like, oh, okay, that could be interesting if it goes that route. And they kind of touched on it, but yeah, amazing. I can't remember, let's see, what did I give it? I gave it a 4 out of 5, so I think it's won a bunch of awards, rightly so. Then I listened to Anna K Away by Jenny Lee. So this is the sequel to Anna K, which is the modern retelling of Anna Karenina. And this is a more fun read. It's not as serious as the first book. We see Anna K over in South Korea and learning more about schools over there. We see her friends in New York and Los Angeles. So we kind of bounce all over the place between, or amongst those 3 towns or cities or places. And I don't know, I think it was a little bit lighter, like I was saying. It wasn't my favorite out of the 2, but I think it was just like a nice, fun, light read, especially after the heaviness of the first one. And then I listened to 3 audiobooks on my way to and from Asheville for my reading retreat. The first one was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. So this is the first in a trilogy, and I am obsessed. Like, I saw this also on Beth at Books Nest, had posted about this story, or at least she got the 3rd one recently, and it follows a high schooler, a senior in high school, who is rehashing a 5-year-old murder that happened in the town in Connecticut, and that's like her senior thesis, more not necessarily to solve the case, but to learn how media plays a role in crime or solving a case and all that. So she finds herself interviewing different family members, which rehash a lot of old feelings that aren't great. The family members of the accused murderer, who ended up committing suicide, from what we can tell. And then it's so cool because it's on audiobook, you can hear the different voice actors, which is fantastic. I love when stories do that. And it's kind of like a podcast too when you're listening to it, to all those like true crime podcasts where you hear like the recording sounds of an interview and like the graininess of it if you're talking to somebody on the phone or in person and you hit the recorder. I just love that. I think that made it even better. I think I would have enjoyed it as a print book, but listening to it on audio just made it so much better. So I gave that a 5 out of 5. Then I listened to One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. So this is the newest LGBTQIA read from her, and this follows 2 characters. One is Jane, that is, so she's somebody that is on the train all the time and has like really cool vibe, edgy but like super cool and super sweet. And then we have August, who just moved to town from I think Louisiana, or she's been to 3 different schools, hasn't really found like what she wants to do yet, and decided to go to New York City to determine like what her next step is to finish out her last year, so she's going on her 4th or 5th year of college and still not sure what to do. So they meet on the train and sparks begin to fly, and they just keep bumping into each other on the same train almost every day, and it goes from there. So I don't know if this is much of a spoiler, but there's a sci-fi element in there that makes it kind of like, oh, I didn't know it was going to go that route, but I think it made it super unique and super cute, and I just love the love between them as the story progresses. And then last but not least is my five-star and also best read of the month of August, which surprised me. So it is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this follows Emma as she is torn between two loves of her life, which she did not expect. One was one from high school. She met and started dating when she was 17. Then they end up getting married, and then he dies on a trip out to, I think it's like just off of the coast of California, or like the West Coast, and she grieves, but then runs into somebody she used to work with at her parents' bookstore, and then they fall in love and are engaged. And then not too long after that, they're not married yet, but she gets a phone call that her husband is still alive, and we go from there. So this surprised me as my top book of the month because, well, one, I wasn't expecting it, and two, it was just a beautiful love story of having literally two loves and what that means for where you are in a point in time, and how that changes you, and how you can be two different people, and what that looks like, and what you want to be or who you want to be. So that, my heart broke over and over again. It swelled over and over again because I could see, like, she had literally two loves of her life, and she has to make a choice, and it's just interesting. I don't know, it was just so beautiful and made me speechless. Loved it. So there we go. Those are the books that I read in the month of August. It was an incredible reading month. September, I'm not sure if I'm going to be having that much, I don't want to say success, because success looks very different, but that quantity of books read, which I think is totally fine. It was just an odd month in my reading life. I am way ahead in my Goodreads and Storygraph challenges. I think I'm 7 books ahead for the 100 I want to read for this year, so that I feel good about. I can ease up in September a little bit and not feel bad about it, I guess. I've also put a book buying ban on myself since I got, let's see, I've got this many books, holy cow, in the month of August. So a little over the top, and I need to read through the ones I have before I buy more. Some say it's impossible to do that, to go on a book buying ban, but I'm gonna try and not buy any more until November, which is my birthday month, and get some there, because of course I'm gonna buy books for my birthday, obviously. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below what your favorite reads from August were, if you have any questions about the books that I read for the month of August, and feel free to hit subscribe, follow me on social media, hit the notification bell so you know when I post next. I usually post once a week on Mondays. So thank you so much again for watching. Have a great day and happy reading.